What is up, guys? Randomonium here, and today we're going to be talking about skirmishers. This video is a follow-up to my video, how to find your ideal playstyle, class, and subclass. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend that you do. And before we get into this video, I just want to give a very special thanks to all the skirmisher mains who answered my questions about their main and helped me make this video. Also, a special shout out to Crit Keeper for an excellent post on what makes a skirmisher a skirmisher. I've included links to every skirmisher's subreddit as well as Crit Keeper's post in the video description below. The purpose of this video is to talk about what makes each skirmisher unique so you can choose the best skirmisher for you. This video is not for skirmisher mains looking to find a new super secret strategy. Instead, it's for people who are interested in the skirmisher class and who are trying to figure out which skirmisher they want to main. I will only be talking about pure skirmishers today and not champions who are hybrid skirmishers. Those hybrid champions will be covered in a future subclass video. The champions that we're going to be covering today in this video are FIORA, Jax, Kled, RIVEN, TRYNDAMERE, Yasuo, Master Yi, and EKKO. Skirmishers are one of the most loved, hated, and feared classes in League of Legends. They can single-handedly win or lose you the game, which makes them, and those who main them, very polarizing figures within the League community. Skirmishers are high mobility, high damage, high mechanics, and high skill cap melee champions. They can be godly or worthless depending on who is playing them. Skirmishers are known to be the best duelists in the game. In competent hands, they can 1v2 or even 1v3 enemies. This makes them extremely potent split pushers, but they tend to struggle with team fighting. However, what truly defines skirmishers are their situational defenses. No class can be good at everything. That would be horribly unbalanced. Skirmishers already have high damage and high mobility, so giving them high defenses would make them extremely overpowered. However, all skirmishers are melee, so giving them no defenses would make them underpowered. To deal with this paradox, Riot gave all skirmishers situational defenses. Defenses which give windows of powerful protection when used properly, but if mismanaged, provide little benefit at all. There are three forms of situational defenses: mobility, durability, and threat. Mobility can take the forms of crowd control, reduction or removal, dashes, blinks, movement speed boosts, or anything else that makes a skirmisher more difficult to CC or hit with skill shots. Durability includes things such as shields, heals, invulnerability, bonus resistances, or anything else that makes the skirmisher extremely difficult to burst down or kill. Threat includes things such as AoE damage, crowd control, or massive effects that can single-handedly win a team fight. This is a chart showing what situational defenses each skirmisher favors. Master Yi has very high mobility with low threat and even lower durability. Riven has less brute mobility than Master Yi, but increased durability and threat. She also has the ability to jump over walls, which Master Yi does not have. EKKO is a champion with both high mobility and high threat, while having low durability. FIORA has less mobility than EKKO, but higher durability, while maintaining roughly the same amount of threat. TRYNDAMERE is a champion with high durability and decent mobility, but low threat. Jax is very similar to TRYNDAMERE, except he has slightly higher threat and slightly lower durability. Kled has the highest durability of any skirmisher, and as a result has a lower mobility and threat. Yasuo is kind of a middle-of-the-road champion, which is why he's in the middle of the diagram. He's got a little bit of each situational defense, but he isn't amazing at any of them. This next diagram shows what type of damage each champion deals, and whether they favor auto attacks, abilities, or a combination of both. For skirmishers, the figure is very lopsided, with physical damage dealing skirmishers dominating. Starting in the top left, TRYNDAMERE is the most dependent on auto attacks and deals almost exclusively physical damage. Master Yi is also extremely dependent on auto attacks, but he does rely on his Alpha Strike for damage, and he does deal a decent amount of true damage as well. Jax is also an auto attack reliant champion, but he can also use his W to get a spike in magic damage, which makes him more of a hybrid damage dealer, as well as making him more dependent on his abilities. Kled deals only physical damage, and while he normally deals this damage with auto attacks, those auto attacks are very dependent on his W. FIORA also relies a lot on auto attacks, but she weaves in her W and her E in order to augment her auto attacks. FIORA also deals a ton of true damage, which is why she is slightly more to the right. Yasuo is a good blend of dealing damage with both his abilities and auto attacks, usually weaving auto attacks between each use of his Q or his E. Riven is the most dependent on her abilities for damage, but she too also weaves in auto attacks between each ability, so she isn't entirely dependent on her abilities. EKKO is alone in the far right corner, being the only skirmisher who deals primarily magic damage and who relies primarily on his abilities for all of his damage. The skirmishers most commonly played in top lane are FIORA, Jax, Kled, Riven, TRYNDAMERE, and Yasuo. Yasuo can truly be played both in top lane and in mid lane, and he usually has around about 50% play rate in each role. Jax is also occasionally played in the jungle. The skirmisher most commonly played in the jungle, though, is Master Yi. And the skirmisher most commonly played in mid lane is EKKO, though EKKO can also be played in top lane or even in the jungle as well. Now we're going to go into each skirmisher and talk about what makes them unique, what are their strengths, and what are their weaknesses. I'll also give you the most common runes, masteries, skill order, and item builds for each skirmisher. For a champion's core items, I only put the items that are built in most games. Situational items are organized from most common in the upper left to least common in the lower right. These builds may not be the optimal way to build these champions, but they are good starting points for anyone looking to pick up the champion. I highly encourage you to check out each skirmisher's subreddit and statistical websites like lolalytics.com, as well as check out high elo streams and guides to get alternate ways to build each champion.
I have no equal.
FIORA, the Grand Duelist. FIORA was initially released in Season 2, but was considered an extremely feast or famine champion who lacked counterplay. In Season 5, she was reworked into her current form. FIORA is a master duelist, and there are a few champions in the game that can stand a chance against her in a 1v1 fight. FIORA excels against champions that rely on crowd control because she can turn their CC against them with her parry. She is one of the only champions in the game with percent health true damage, which means that she can shred through tanks, allowing her to itemize for survivability or straight damage to kill squishies. The only champions in the game that can duel FIORA are champions who don't rely on crowd control or abilities, and instead primarily deal damage through auto attacks such as Kale or TRYNDAMERE. FIORA's damage is extremely conditional and entirely reliant on her using her dash to proc vitals. A lot of her damage is also dependent on auto attack resets from her E and Hydra. What truly defines good FIORA players are use of her W, parry. Predicting the crowd control of your opponent and parrying it is often the difference between FIORA winning or losing the fight. What makes a FIORA player great is predicting where her opponent's vitals will appear and positioning herself to rapidly proc them with consecutive attacks. FIORA mains love her because of her insane outplay potential and the intelligence, skill, and reflex required to play her correctly. FIORA excels in small fights or 1v1 duels. She is a relentless split pusher capable of chasing down most enemies. She struggles in team fights with multiple forms of CC, but if she can get the heal off on her ultimate, then she can single-handedly win a team fight for her team. FIORA is an extremely high skill cap champion, even for skirmishers. It can take hundreds of games before you can feel confident with her, but any FIORA main will tell you that the time spent is worth the effort.
Surprise! I'm back!
Jax, the Grandmaster at Arms. Jax is one of the original skirmishers, and is still one of the best duelists in the game. On release, Jax was so broken that they actually had to disable him from the game. Jax at times has been so powerful that he has fundamentally changed how the game works, being primarily responsible for the dodge stat being removed from the game. Jax is also a champion that gets stronger and stronger the longer the game goes on. Late game Jax is a split pushing nightmare who can take towers extremely quickly. He is considered, along with TRYNDAMERE, to be the strongest split pusher in the game. Jax has sustained physical damage combined with burst magic damage, making it extremely difficult to itemize effectively against him. Jax is the only skirmisher who deals hybrid damage in the game. Where Jax struggles is team fights. He's fantastic at duels, even when he's outnumbered, but he gets lost in team fights where he can be crowd controlled and focus fire can take him down quickly. If you have to team fight with Jax, he is entirely dependent on surprising people and hitting his stun on multiple people.
I find courage unpredictable. It's total insanity you can rely on.
Kled, the Cantankerous Cavalier.
Holy shit, where are we?
Kled is a very interesting skirmisher. While most skirmishers are all about dancing in and out of combat, Kled is all about aggression. You have to have cojones the size of Galio to play Kled, and you cannot back down from a fight. Kled is all about aggression, aggression, and more aggression. And tacos. You can't forget the tacos.
Yeah, tacos.
Kled is less mobile than many skirmishers, but he has very good chasing potential, and he's extremely durable thanks to Skarl and his remount mechanic. Kled is the comeback king, able to turn lost fights and deal a frightening amount of damage even without a lot of items. While Kled is able to 1v2, just like other skirmishers, he lacks the strong wave clear to make him an effective split pusher. Kled is far more useful killing an enemy and then using his ultimate to allow his team to engage in a 5v4 team fight that the enemy team has no chance of running away from. Because of his ultimate and his tankiness, Kled is arguably the best skirmisher in the game at team fighting. What really draws people to Kled, though, is his character. Kled probably has the best voiceover of any champion in any game ever. Kled's personality is one of a kind, and many people fall in love with this taco-eating, mushroom juice drinking mountain admiral of badassery.
The time for talk is over.
RIVEN, the Exile. RIVEN is a hyper-mobile skirmisher with near-endless combos. She has no resource bar, so her only limitation are her cooldowns. RIVEN also has two forms of hard crowd control, which is very rare for a skirmisher. The downside of all this mobility and crowd control is that her brute strength damage is very low. In order to deal high amounts of damage, RIVEN players rely on animation canceling, a practice that allows her to weave auto attacks in between spells very rapidly that boosts her damage significantly. Many champions can perform animation canceling, but with RIVEN, animation canceling is a necessity in order to be successful with her. This makes RIVEN one of the highest skill cap and mechanically intense skirmishers in the game. RIVEN is a champion that can take hundreds of games to learn her combos, and hundreds more to learn her matchups. That said, people who put in this immense amount of time usually find it very rewarding. RIVEN has insane outplay potential, and is known for her ability to make highlight reel plays in competent hands. There are tons of RIVEN one-trick ponies, and she's one of the most rewarding champions to one-trick if that's something that you're interested in. Like most other skirmishers, RIVEN excels in small fights or 1v1 duels, and can struggle in team fights. Her team fighting success is entirely dependent on her landing either her third Q or her stun on multiple enemies, and then following it up with her full burst combo. Crowd control is the bane of RIVEN and can shut her down very easily.
I am your worst nightmare.
TRYNDAMERE, the Barbarian King. There are few things scarier in League of Legends than a fed TRYNDAMERE. Able to be immune from death while having insane chase potential and damage is a very scary combination. There's hardly anyone who can stop the split push of TRYNDAMERE by themselves. This causes TRYNDAMERE to create an immense amount of pressure that draws multiple enemies to fight you, allowing your team to take objectives elsewhere. Tryndamere is a true split pusher, able to clear waves and take towers extremely quickly, while also being able to win duels and escape when the enemy team collapses on him. This insane pressure and escape potential is what makes Tryndamere so frightening. What Tryndamere gives up for all this power, though, is the ability to team fight. Tryndamere struggles in large battles where enemies can crowd control him. If Tryndamere can't get on top of his target, then he is useless. If he falls behind and can't effectively split push, then he is also useless. Tryndamere has a very strong early game because few people can out-trade him. Once he hit level 6 and gains access to his ultimate, there's hardly anyone who can stop him. While there are still some champions that can outscale Tryndamere, he is still a force to be reckoned with in the late game as long as he keeps up his farm and his levels.
Death is like the wind, always by my side.
Yasuo, the Unforgiven. One of the biggest draws of Yasuo is his versatility. He has decent mobility, decent crowd control, decent damage, and decent survivability. He is the most well-rounded of skirmishers, but he isn't the best in any one area. His dash is conditional on him not having dashed through the target recently. His crowd control is dependent on him hitting his third Q. His damage is dependent on animation canceling and his ultimate, and his survivability is dependent on proper use of his passive and his wind wall. Everything about Yasuo is conditional, which is what makes him such a compelling and rewarding skirmisher. Likewise, Yasuo isn't the best or worst in any given area. He doesn't have the best wave clear or tower taking ability, but he can be an effective split pusher. He's not the best team fighter, but if he lands a big ultimate and positions his wind wall correctly, then he can single-handedly win his team the game. Yasuo as a champion is only as good as the player controlling him. Yasuo is also very versatile in what role he is played. Roughly half the time people play him in top lane, and roughly half the time people play him in mid lane. His versatility and high skill cap makes him another champion that is frequently one-tricked, and since he is commonly played both mid and top, you're pretty much always guaranteed to be able to play him as long as he isn't banned or you aren't autofilled.
This will be a harsh lesson.
Master Yi, the WUJU Bladesman. Master Yi is one of the hardest snowballing champions in the game. He is known for his ability to wreck teams and clean up team fights, relentlessly chasing down enemies until the announcer screams, "Pentakill." Yi is known for terrorizing low elo, but frequently struggles in high elo games. The reason for this is Yi is incredibly fragile and very susceptible to crowd control. Yi's primary outplay mechanic is his Q, Alpha Strike. When properly used, this ability allows Yi to become untargetable and avoid crowd control while simultaneously sticking to his target. Yi has one of the best self-steroids in the game in his ultimate, and his reset mechanics allow him to quickly rack up kills against low-health enemies. It's near impossible to escape a fed Master Yi, which is why he is so frustrating to play against in low elo. Yi can also use his W, Meditate, for outplay potential to minimize the damage taken from his opponent's highest damaging abilities. Yi is the absolute best champion in the game at chasing down enemies and finishing off low health targets. He is very weak in the early game, but he's extremely powerful with items. Yi is also the only skirmisher in the game who is primarily played in the jungle.
It's not how much time you have, it's how you use it.
EKKO, the boy who shattered time. EKKO has gone through a huge evolution since he was released back in Season 5. He was initially designed to be an assassin, but people discovered that due to his extremely high base damages and crowd control, that he was incredibly viable as a bruiser. Bruiser or Tank EKKO quickly became the most popular build on EKKO, and was considered disgustingly broken by many people. Riot has nerfed EKKO's base damages multiple times while simultaneously buffing his scaling in order to kill the viability of Bruiser EKKO, and now in Season 7, AP EKKO has once again become the preferred build. While EKKO has a weak laning phase, once he reaches level 6 he becomes a potent duelist. He is strongest in the mid-game when he has enough damage to destroy lone opponents or even 1v2 enemies with correct use of his ultimate. He can struggle in the late game against teams with a lot of crowd control, but he can also single-handedly win team fights with his W or his ultimate. He is most commonly played in mid lane because his wave clear is decent and his roams are fantastic, but there are also some people who play him in top lane or even the jungle. EKKO's whole theme and play pattern is designed to use time to his advantage. EKKO can throw out his Q for easy harass and slows, or he can enter the fight with his EQ auto combo, which procs his passive and Thunderlords, gives him a speed boost, and also slows his enemy while allowing him to reset. If his enemy tries to chase EKKO, then he can set them up with his W, or he can also use his ultimate offensively. Alternatively, EKKO can also use all of his abilities defensively. He can use his Q to slow pursuers, his W as a shield or as an auditory threat to get people to back off, his E to hop over walls, or his R to get out of a bad situation. This is what makes EKKO so rewarding and a true skirmisher. EKKO differs from other skirmishers in that he has much more burst damage than other skirmishers and can be played similar to an assassin. EKKO's ultimate allows him to embrace this assassin nature and play hyper aggressively whenever it's available. EKKO is also one of the best skirmishers at team fighting due to his multiple forms of crowd control and the AoE damage in his kit. Additionally, EKKO is the only full AP skirmisher in the game, and also the only skirmisher who is most commonly played in mid lane. As far as difficulty goes, EKKO is relatively easy to pick up, but he is extremely hard to master. So which skirmisher is your favorite? Also, what kind of skirmishers do you think Riot should develop in the future? Personally, I'd love to see some more magic damage or hybrid damage skirmishers in the future. If you have any questions on any of the skirmishers, please leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer your questions or at least point you in the right direction. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know which subclass you want me to do next. And of course, if you've made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of my videos. I hope you all have a fantastic day. This is Randemonium, signing off.